Go live. Okay, I think we're live. Hi, everybody. This is Elena of the Witches Box for our usual regular Tuesday, 1 o'clock Pacific time live gathering where I do an oracle reading for the week and then we hang out and we talk about all things witchcraft. So here's the thing. Before I start, let's do a couple of quickie housekeeping things. Well, is there only one housekeeping thing? I wrote this in the chat box. Alexis, if you're here, show yourself, woman. I've got some stuff for you. But if you're not, I will check in later on in this live to see if you show up. Other than that, what is happening right now? All of the boxes. Is that true? Yeah. All of the November boxes have mailed. They mailed out last week. I think most of them have already arrived in their homes. There are still a few straggling boxes to the international folks. They're also on sale. It's a Mercury box. It's the last of our Planetary Magic series. And this one comes with that beautiful blown glass calligraphy pen with the ink. It's really a beautiful box. There are still a few of those on sale. You can catch that at thewitchesbox.com in the store. You'll see all the extra boxes that we have on sale there. Hello, Callum. Hello, Lilith. Welcome. Good evening from your side of the world. Welcome, welcome. And so that's that announcement. I think that's it. Yesterday was the cutoff date to be subscribed in order to receive the December books in the December box. The December box has got that gorgeous Earth Goddess in it, which I'm very excited about. There will be a few extras of those so that if you missed out on that box, there'll be an opportunity to buy them as a one-off by the second week of December. And I think that's it for my big announcements. Hello, Kelly, Jamie, Marcy. Hello, Skeleton Crew Paranormal. Love the name. Welcome, everybody. All right. So, we're back on the thing. We're still on the thing. We're not back on the thing. I am reading from this deck, Seasons of the Witch, Yule Oracle. And as you know, this is the one by Lauren Anderson and Juliet Diaz, and it's illustrated by Giada Rose. And this is the second deck that I have. Someone, I don't know who it was, and please forgive me for not remembering who you were, but one of you somewhere, either here or on Instagram or wherever, sent me a note or an email. I don't even know where you sent the note. It made its way to my desk, okay? And apparently one of you spoke to Juliet Diaz, who did confirm that there are decks coming for, I think, almost every Sabbath. We're so thrilled here. I can't even tell you. I'm going to have to do a little bit of digging and maybe reach out to her. I am so excited about this. So whoever sent that message along, I love it. Thank you so much for doing that. Column says, do the books and bugs come with a subscription? So Column, we have two subscriptions. We have a book subscription and we have a box subscription. So those are separate. You can be subscribed to both, or you can just be subscribed to one or the other. The book box obviously is always books, 2 books a month with the forum, and then a live gathering at the end of the month where we talk with the authors about the books that we read. And then the box comes with a bunch of magical things. Sometimes there is a book in the box, but not as a rule. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. More often than not, we don't have books in that box unless we're doing something like we're going to do for December, which is the end of a 4-box series that we weren't working with Llewellyn, but Llewellyn has created a 4-book series called Elements of Witchcraft on the Elements. And we did water, and then we did air, and then we did fire. And now we're doing an earth themed box on earth magic, and that book is in there. So I think I made that way too confusing, but 2 subscriptions, one for books, one for magical items and rituals. Sometimes there are books in that box, but not as a rule. I hope that was helpful. Let's see. Hi from the Okanogan Forest. Where is the Okanogan? Where is the Okanogan Forest? I have no idea where that is, but I love Pacific Crest Silver. Beautiful. Okay. Alexis, I have got a stack of books here to show you today. I'm going to do that after we do the oracle reading because you've been on my mind all week. Like, I have to get her a list. I have to get her a list. I have to get her a list. And it's been a wild week. So today I came into my office, I grabbed all the books, and I've got a pile in front of me. So once we do the oracle reading, I'll go right into the books, and then we can go into Witchcraft Q&A so that we can do like a little booky show, show and tell. Hey Kayla, it's your first time being able to join live. Wonderful, welcome. Since moving back to the States, hope you're doing well. Wonderful. Tell us where you moved back from. That's exciting. Hello, England. Jacqueline, thank you for being here. Meredith, I want those Oracle decks so bad. Meredith, they're so beautiful. I can't get them. If you can, save your pennies, or ask for the holiday gift, do what you gotta do, but they're really beautiful. I used the first set. Love them. I think you're talking about the cards, yeah? Elizabeth, hello. Lilith, hello. I want this one. I have the Season of the Witch, and it's one of the best. Right? They're beautiful. So when I heard the news that they're making more, I'm super thrilled about that. Column, I'm subscribed to both, but haven't received this month's books yet. This month's books. You haven't received November's books yet, so that's not normal because those books went out like the last week of October. So Column, I'm going to give you some instructions. If you can please email Elliot at info@thewitchesbox.com and let him know that you haven't received your November books yet. He can help straighten that out because you should have definitely received the books. The books shipped out like 2.5, I don't know what day we're on, almost 3 weeks ago. So they should have definitely been to you unless you are at the very last far reaches of the Southern Hemisphere or the Northern Hemisphere. Sometimes things take a lot longer if you're international. But the boxes are still making their way. So if you haven't gotten the box, that's okay because they're still maneuvering through the situation that is our global transit system, which is kind of wild. Okay. I moved back from South Korea. Wow, was always watching on the replay. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad that you're here and you're able to watch live. That's wonderful. Beautiful. Oh, and skeleton is Jennifer. I will try to remember that. Okay. Rochelle says the Okanogan Forest is in Washington State. This is my first live. So excited. I'm glad that you're here. Wonderful. Welcome. A few first timers. And you're in the UK column. Yeah, definitely still reach out to Elliot only because the UK tends to be a little bit slow in getting their boxes, but not that slow. Like if you were in Australia or we have, I don't know if she's here, but we have a beloved subscriber who's been with us since day one, I think October of 2017. And Homegirl is at the last corner reaches of Canada. Like I don't even think they have cars there. Like I don't know. It's like, so sadly, she's one of the last ones always to get everything, which is just kind of heartbreaking, but it's just how it is. So if you were in one of those places, I'd say, 3 weeks is a long time, but give it another few days or another week. But UK tends to still be, you're like maybe delayed by 3 or 4 days from everybody else. You should have gotten it by now for sure. So definitely please reach out to Elliot at info@thewitchesbox.com so we can get you those books because they're really good books. And we're having Eva Dominguez, I have to remember what month we're in. We're having Eva Dominguez join us again at the end of this month. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, so we're here. Welcome everybody. Let's get into the oracle reading. I shuffled. I've got the deck kind of upside down, so I'm just going to pull from the top. Oh. This is what we got. Remembering. Let me sit with this for a second. Remembering, it's number 29. All right, I'm going to read the thing. You know, I have a thing with the thing, but I'm going to read it. Oh, how thy glimmer in the darkest of sights, never forgotten, never still, yet pacing in the mind in the twilight of the night. That is what it says. Remembering. The first thing that comes to mind with this is that, and I've said this before, I don't know where, because you know, I can't track where I say what when it comes to the Witch's Box because I'm all over the place. Somewhere I talked about the fact that we are at a place right now between Samhain and winter solstice. Many, not that it matters at this point and not for this conversation, but many feel like Samhain is the witch's new year. I really ride with winter solstice being my new year, But this place right now that we're at between Samhain and winter solstice, it's a whole liminal season in many ways. Yes, we're in the fall. Yes, we're at the end of our calendar year. And yes, we're at the end of the year, the darkest part of the sun, the darkest, it's the dark sun version of what a dark moon would be. We've retreated, right? It's in the darkness. We are in the dream time. We are in a time of retreat and silence and tending, a lot of incubation, a lot of composting as a metaphor is going on spiritually, or at least the earth is moving through that energetic. And for me, because this time is still so liminal, to me, this whole entire season, from Samhain all the way through to the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. So understand that I'm in the northern hemisphere. So when I speak about these things as a metaphor, it's really going to apply mostly to the northern hemisphere. Um, to me, this whole thing is a Samhain season. This is a whole liminal time where the work with the ancestors and what has come to pass is really still very rich and very potent. It is what I spend most of my time doing. This whole time between Samhain and winter solstice, there's a lot of veneration of my ancestors. There's a lot of really sitting with them deeply. It feels to me like a long month and a half, like length, or almost 2 months worth of time where I am just doing the work of Samhain, but during this entire time. So this card coming up with the word remembering. Oh, if I hide my face, there you go. When this card comes up, remembering, what comes up for me is that I'm personally very deeply, I just dropped the card. I'm very deeply in the remembering, and as an act of honoring, as an act of veneration, as an act of saying, I am part of you. And as I venerate my ancestors and those who came before, I also venerate myself, and I also venerate all of us, because these are our roots. So that card coming up brings up this like need to remind everyone that we have an opportunity now, as we are retreating, as the night is longer, as it's getting colder, as we're doing more of our incubating work, our still work, our dream work, that the remembering is its own ritual magic. It's a way to tend to ourselves and tend to our ancestral line and tend to those who are coming after us, right? Because the more we remember, the more we honor, the more we venerate, the more connected we are to the truth and the wisdom that's available and the healing that's available there. This is a time for me personally where I'm really exploring the threads of what needs to be healed in a way that is most effective in creating a domino effect all the way back in my line and all the way laterally in my line, right? And that's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of like stillness that is required, and really paying attention to that, because there's always a lot of noise when you work with the ancestors. There's a lot that can be tended to. There's a lot that you can look to and pay attention to and learn from and dig into. But I'm going down to, like, if we distill it down to what is that one thread that we can pull that would cause the most ripple of shift and change and healing, what would that be? And I don't have the answer for my line personally at this time, but that's kind of where my deep dive is. So when I do my sitting and my honoring and my offerings, that's where I'm sitting with. That's what I'm opening for the answer for. So remembering, this is a time of remembering. There's an opportunity to really get connected and deep in the work of, and more intimate in the work of working with our ancestors. So that is the card, and that's what's come up. So like that, I guess I would encourage all of you to, if you have not been continuing any ancestral work, if you've never worked with your ancestors before, even the act of just, it doesn't have to be this elaborate. I mean, we've seen all of these beautiful Day of the Dead altars and other people's ancestral altars, which can be beautiful, elaborate things. You don't have to go there, especially if it's something that's new for you, especially if it's not something that you are even sure that you really want to take on as one of your practices. All you need to do, and I encourage the candle, because the flame is really sacred and significant in this way. You're keeping the life blood, you're keeping the lifeline open, and fire is really beautiful in representing that. So a little space, clean it off, one candle. It doesn't have to be a whole lot of things. If you love the bells and whistles like I do the bells and whistles. But if you don't have them, you're not doing anything wrong. A candle, it can be a tea light, it can be like a little votive, whatever you've got, where you light a candle specifically as a way to tap in and say, I'm here. And I don't know what I want to do, but I'm here to say hello, that I want to honor you, and that I want to learn more. And this is what I'm opening up to. Just doing that can shift a lot and bring up a lot in your dream time. It can bring up a lot in your own, like those synchronicities that come through when we are moving through our day to day. And we've just turned on to a channel where we're like, I'm open to learning more about this. And then suddenly information starts to come through for you. It can be beautiful that way. So you can just do a simple, hey, I'm here. I acknowledge you as my ancestors. I don't know how to work with you, but I'm open. That can do a lot. So in terms of our oracle for the week, I would maybe not challenge you, but maybe encourage you to check in, tap into that. This is still a really powerful time to be doing that work. And the other part of it is that what we pay attention to grows and it gets more empowered. And we can only be benefited from by tending to our line because we are of that line. So understand that that's also part of your own self-care. So like that, I'm going to drink some, I have hot chocolate today. I felt very chocolatey. So let me take a quickie drink and then I'm going to see what's happening in the box or in the chat box. Here's my little secret for hot chocolate. This is cheap hot chocolate, okay? I'm not melting chocolate like I should be and all the things. This is like a little, like, is it Miss Swiss or Swiss Miss or whatever, hot chocolate powder. I do like a little crumbling of rock salt. I mean, not a lot, okay? Like a pinch of salt. And then I mix that in, and that salt isn't enough to make it salty, but it's enough to kind of like lift up the chocolate even more. It's amazing. It balances the sweet, but in a really rounded, amazing way. So anyway, I could talk about hot chocolate forever. Okay, let me see what's happening. That's okay that you're late. No worries. Crafting my life. We're here. Kay Long, you're welcome. Okay, wait, is it Jennifer or Jessica? You're Jennifer. Okay, so skeleton / Jennifer. Right? Yeah, Jennifer. Oh, my memory today is out of control. So crazy. This is the second time today I've heard about remembering and remember. I'm hearing the message. Thank you. Wonderful. Good. Callum says, I lit a candle as a remembrance of my recently passed dog. I'm so sorry. Teddy was such a good boy, even though he was a grumpy old git. Oh, Papa. I've also noticed that I'm more into a kind of hibernation mode lately. Yeah, I mean, look, it's that time of year. The earth is doing its own hibernation. And the more, especially as witches, the more connected we become to ourselves and to the world around us, to the earth that we walk on, the more we're going to feel that pull as well. This is why we pay so much attention to, and we pay so much, not lip service, but we speak so much about the wheel of the year, because it doesn't necessarily fit perfectly into our geographical turning of the seasons. But when there is a shift in seasons where you are, however that may look, right? Because in Southern California, having seasons is kind of like a luxury. We really don't have seasons. We have 6 months of one thing and 6 months of another. But when there is an earthly shift, when our environment and our plants and our trees and our animals start responding to that natural shift on the planet, the more connected and more aware that we've become in our practices, the more we also feel influenced by that. And the reality is that we're always influenced by that, but because we live in such a crazy world where it's just, we are in a lot of noise and static, it makes it really hard for us to really hear our intuitive pull. The more we work on that, the louder that intuitive pull becomes. And then, yeah, you're going to feel the need to retreat, to go a little bit more quiet, to do different types of work, to eat a little differently, to sleep differently, to wake up at a different time. Sadly, our lives don't allow for that kind of flow and flexibility. Some of us can carve that out for ourselves after a lot of work. But yeah, absolutely. Jax, hello, says, I really like that simple introduction to ancestors. Thank you. You're welcome. Beautiful. I've also seen more shadow figures on my walls late at night. Yes. Marcy, with ancestors, is it important to ID who is with you? So, Marcy, the only yes, only in the sense that not so much ID them like, oh, you are Jack Black. No, that's an artist, right? John Brown, that's my husband. Joe Schmo. It's not so much important that you know their name and the years that they were alive. It's not that. It's important in the sense of, and I should have said this when I talked about the candle, um, the know that who you're open to and that you're calling to is a well ancestor, someone who is not still locked into the dynamic of their human form, because we all have a bunch of dysfunctions, we all have a bunch of woundedness, and that can play out in our lives in really dysfunctional ways. You may not want to engage in someone like that who has yet to transcend or heal through or dissipate from that dynamic. So when I first started reaching out to my ancestors, I was really clear. I am open to making contact with those of you who are well, those of you who've transcended your human dysfunction, because I'm really interested in healthy relationships. I'm interested in becoming even more healthy in my own ways of being with other people. So I want to reach back far enough to that person, to those people, to those ancestors. So always, and I'm remiss, and I'm so glad that you brought this up, Marcy, because I didn't say this when I talked about just open it up. Don't ever just open it up. Always say, I'm open to you who are well. I'm open to you who are healed, who are further along in the healing process so that we can continue to heal together. Reach out to that group. The whole, it's so wonderful to have a really clear idea of, oh, I've just connected with um, Hilda, my ancestor 5 generations removed, and I really just learned from her the years that she was alive. That's wonderful, but oftentimes we don't get that information. Oftentimes we identify them not necessarily by their earthly details, but by the feel. Over time, when you have someone come through that you don't necessarily recognize if you can see their face, or they have yet to tell you what their name is, they will have a particular feel that's different and different personality and a different messaging that's their own as opposed to someone else. And you'll be able to distinguish who's who just based on that way of communicating and being together. This one always feels this way. This one always communicates about this. This one always feels this way. This one's personality is this way. So you'll have the ability over time to identify and individuate that way. You might not always get a name. Part of this, I think, because this is more and more, and we all get kind of tripped up on, but I don't know who this person is that it, I read about it for the first time in, I think it's Ancestral Medicine by Danielle Foor, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that that's the book that I read it in, where he talked about the fact that over time, I, sitting here in front of you, am an amalgamation of several different ancestors who've kind of poured in to create this emanation, right? And when I die, maybe those come apart, maybe they don't, but when someone else comes down the line, they will be a different amalgamation of another grouping of ancestors. We are not just one person. So when you look at it that way, which is incredible. I mean, you sit with and you start to think about that, you can kind of like have a mind blown, because there are times when we meet other people in our family where there's a familiarity with someone that we're working with in the beyond, because there's a connection there, not necessarily that they've reincarnated, but that they have been part of the weaving of this new soul. You start to kind of go down that rabbit hole, is mind blowing, but then it also gives some context for that ancestor that you're working with may not have just been one person in your line. They may have been part of several. So you're working with a soul signature that has poured into or helped weave other soul signatures as well. Does that make sense? There are a couple of other books that talk about this. Thank you, Marcy, for putting the book down or adding the book to the thing. But yeah, I hope that gave you some information. Column says getting up at 4 a.m. for work is even more horrendous now. Yeah, exactly. Marcy says cocoa and Bailey's. Yeah, so good. And coffee and Bailey's is good too. These are all great cold weather drinks. It's amazing. Hello, Nicoletta. Welcome. I'm so glad that you caught us as well. Crafting my life. I'm so excited this year. I wanted to honor my ancestors by taking my heritage test, waiting my results to find out more about my roots. Yes, beautiful. I did that with Ancestry.com. It's amazing what you can find. It's really beautiful. It's also, I know that there's a lot of controversy about people who are like, don't get your genetic test done because now your genes are out there and the government can use. Look, I feel like at this point, there is nothing about you that is a secret and that you really truly fully possess. So why not enjoy some of this stuff? I got my Ancestry.com genetic test done. Excuse me. And it's amazing information to see where you come from. But for those of you who are also asking the question, this is kind of like on a different tangent, but not like what if I don't know, what if my family doesn't have like a traditional witchcraft practice or a magical practice? Where do I go? I don't want to appropriate something that isn't mine, but how do I know what truly is mine? Getting your DNA tested so that you know kind of where your people have come from is a really great way to start that journey of like, oh, the predominant amount of my people are from the British Isles. That gives you information on where you might want to look in terms of your magical pagan roots and practices. Um, my people are predominantly from Portugal and Spain and that area. So then I can do research on what were the deities pre-Christianity, pre-Catholicism that were worshipped there. What was the practice of the land? So it can really help open up a huge doorway of research for you and information that can be really beneficial for your own personal practices and the path that you choose to go to as a witch. Okay, let me take a little drink. Okay, and then Michelle, welcome. I'm glad that you finally caught alive. Marcy put the name of the book. So it's Ancestral Medicine, Daniel Foor. And Michelle, that is the book that I would recommend for a beginner and a newbie because he is super comprehensive. He talks about it in such an amazing way. There's so much detail about exact practices as well as other cultural practices that are informative. He talks about the setting of this is what's important. He talks about the setting of boundaries, that you can set boundaries with your ancestors. You don't have to work with everybody. And he talks about why that is and why that isn't. How to help heal ancestors, how to reach your well ancestors, and how to ally with your well ancestors in order to help others heal. It's a great book. It is the book. Get the book. I took a DNA kit and discovered I'm 18% Scottish. I can't wait to explore that witchcraft lineage to see if some remembrances resonate. Beautiful. Oh, I'm glad that you like my glasses. um, Marcy says books or references that talk about animals in the past. Sorry about your grump column. Animals in the past. Books or references that talk about animals in the past. I don't have any. Maybe something will come up, but nothing's coming up to my mind right now. If anybody else has any recommendations, please put those in the chat box. Colin from Teddy was a special boy and he's still here. I know it's so hard when we lose them. It is the worst. I really, really resent the world for having them not live as long as we do. I can go on and on, but yes, it's such a hard thing to poor baby. Michelle says, I have lupus and they did a 23andMe test for research, so it was free. Oh, good. Found out I am 49% Irish. I want to look into the Irish side of witchcraft. Oh, and Michelle, you're so lucky because there's so much out there that you can check out. So that's a great, that'll be easy research for you. Aim, welcome, says, I was adopted and found my birth mom and 5 siblings. Wow, that's amazing, as well as more of my heritage. That's beautiful. Do you mean Aim through Ancestry or 23andMe? That's amazing. There's so many stories like that. I love to hear that. I hope that it was a good experience, yeah? Okay. As that conversation continues, Alexis, you are up. So last week on our live, Alexis asked a question about books on Kali, and then we kind of deviated a little bit into Ayurveda and the more Hindi side of things. And then I mentioned some books. I couldn't remember all of the books. And then I was supposed to give her a list of those books, and I didn't because life is just all the things. And so Aim, I want to ask you something about that in a second, but I want to get to this and then I'll get to the Ancestry thing. So we're going to take a quick break from Ancestry.com. And then we will go into these books and then go back. Michelle, I would start with that book. So Marcy Robinson, if you scroll up and you see her name, she posted the name of the book, which is Ancestral Medicine by Danielle Foor, PhD, and it's Foor. Daniel, not Danielle. It's Daniel. It's a man. That is the book that I recommend. It's really, it's an amazing book, and it's really probably the most comprehensive one that I've read so far. That is so helpful. It'll really hold your hand through it, and it'll take you from beginner to really deep practitioner, I think. Um, I'm glad that it's been a beautiful experience. I want to have some conversations about how to maneuver through ancestry.com, but that's probably not the time, or this is probably not the time and place to do it on this video. But I get so frustrated when I can't see other people's trees, because I know that hidden in there we have overlapping family members, and I want to be able to add their tree to my tree. But most people who are there are only there for a short time, and then they're gone. So when you try to text them or message them, they don't respond back. And it's like, oh my God, why can't I see? I know there's a privacy issue, but it's a whole thing. Being half Tongan is difficult to find the pre-colonized spirituality and magical practices. Or I think you said or dirtied, but I think you maybe mean deities. Being half Tongan. But being half Tongan, isn't there a lot of, which is not necessarily easy access if you don't live near that community, but isn't there a lot of oral history and tradition that's passed down? Because that is the problem. I know that Hawaiians have a lot of verbal history, and there's a lot of work being done to really uh, not catalog it, but to document it, because there's a big push to bring the language back in Hawaii. There's a lot of that. So I don't know how that's working in Tonga. Um, but yeah, you definitely want to move past, you want to go pre-colonization for sure for that information. And that's the sad part, that we've lost so much of that. Okay, Alexis, my friend. These are a lot of books. So these are not the same as the typical, we talked about this, I think, last week. When we buy modern day witchy books on deities, these go a little bit more academic, they go a little heavier, they go a lot more to the cultural context, and they speak more to the Hindi practices and veneration around Kali in that way. So the first one is Tantric Visions of the Divine Feminine, the 10 Mahavidyas by David Kinsley. This is the book. This is a dense book. But it's not just Kali, it's the 10 Mahavidyas, but Kali is a predominant part of that. So there's that. It's dense, but then it'll also maybe speak to, I know you're going into Ayurveda and yoga, and there'll be a lot of information that is Ayurveda and yoga adjacent, right? Okay. This is another dense book. These are dense. These are this might not be your kind of reading, but I was in a thing. So I just saw a page. I was going to give you an example. This is all of this. All of both of these pages. And this page. All of those are just the notes for that one chapter. So know that this is a heavily researched book. It's called Encountering Kali in the Margins, at the Center, and in the West. And it's edited by Rachel Fell McDermott and Jeffrey Kripal. So there you go. This one took me a minute. This was a lot. I'm going to read to you from the back. Encountering Kali explores one of the most remarkable divinities the world has seen. The Hindu goddess Kali is simultaneously understood as a bloodthirsty warrior, a deity of ritual possession, a tantric sexual partner, and an all-loving, compassionate mother. Popular and scholarly interest in her has been on the rise in the West in recent years. Responding to this phenomenon, McDermott and Capral's volume focuses on the complexities involved in interpreting Kali in both her indigenous South Asian settings and her more recent Western incarnations. And then it goes on, but we're super dense, really good. Like, this will leave you really knowing a lot about Kali. So I talked to you again about the 10 Mahavidyas, and Kali is the first of the 10 Mahavidyas. This is the great cosmic powers. This might be hard to get a hold of. It's but I can't pronounce his name. S. Shankaranarayanan. It's not a necessary book. It's in the 5th reprint. It's from 2002. I think I got this actually in India, so you may not find this, but it has writings on all of the 10 Mahavidyas, which, you know, I'm a fan of. This is the book that I mentioned last time, Kali, the Black Goddess of Dakshineshwar by Elizabeth Harding. We talked about this. This book is kind of falling apart because Mama did a lot of underlining and note taking a long time ago. It'd be kind of cool to read all these again. I don't know why I got this book. This is kind of a, I had this in 2007. This is kind of an anthropological, historical retelling of Kali through iconography. It's Kali, the Feminine Force, by Ajit Mukherjee. And it's really kind of an anthropological study and reference guide to how she's depicted in iconography and throughout history. So all of this gives you context. Okay. I'm missing a lot, but I'm going to keep going. This is the book that I talk about, The Tantric Yoga and the 10 Wisdom Goddesses by Dr. David Frawley. This is my 3rd copy of this book because I don't know what the hell it is about this book and me, but when I get into this book, the 2 books that I had fell apart. Basically, there was just constant note taking. Every time I read this book, I get something different. This is the book where I think I mentioned to you, it speaks to Kali and each of the wisdom goddesses in a way that to me is very much rooted in quantum physics. So when we talk about different deities and we talk about the qualities of a deity, so yes, she is the goddess of death, she's the goddess of rebirth, all those things, we talk about it in that way. But this kind of went to, let me see if I can find an underlined quote. This talks about her as time and the way time moves through the universe and when time is and is not. Like, it's very high-minded, feels like a lot of quantum physics. It when I read this, I remember the very first experience I had with this book, and I was reading about Kali as time and what that really meant for the fabric of existence. I remember having, it was almost this out-of-body experience where I heard her, and what I heard was just this, I don't know if I want to do it in the camera. I'm a little shy. But what I imagine being in space would be like, which is like a little, right? Did you hear that? Did I even register? That's what I heard her to be. That's the sound of her vibration. There is this expansive, never-ending space that holds time, and that's her. It goes into, this book, I'm gonna have to read it again. So the 10 Mahavidyas, in case anyone is interested, and I haven't looked to see, you guys are probably all gone on board because what are we talking about? Let me tell you who the 10 Mahavidyas are, and then I will close this discussion and we can move on. So the 10 Mahavidyas, or the 10 wisdom goddesses, and this is specific to the Sri Vidya tradition in Hinduism. Kali, Tara, Tripura Sundari, Bhuvaneshwari, Bhairavi, Chinnamasta, Dhumavati, Bagalamukhi, Matangi, Kamala, and that's it. Those are the 10 wisdom goddesses. I love this book. It combines that with Ayurveda, with a little bit of Tantra and a lot of yoga. Boom. There it is. And then this book I haven't read, but this book was sent to me just recently by who? New Harbinger Press sent me this book. It's Shakti Rising, Embracing Shadow and Light on the Goddess Path to Wholeness by Kavita Chinayan. And I hear that this book is actually really, really good. So I haven't read it. It's on my to-be-read pile. It was sent to me recently. But this I keep hearing is great. So you might want to check it out as well. Oh my God. I just read the last comment. Okay, wait. Let me... So I hope that was helpful, and let me see what has been going on, because this is not yoga Hindu Kali talk, but we talk about all kinds of things. Being a Tongan, I read that. Hello, hello, made it. Yes, Emerence, welcome. Animal Speak by Ted Andrews. This is by Column, who says Animal Speak by Ted Andrews is a good book for animals as how to connect with nature by Tristan Gooley. Okay, so those are two books: How to Connect with Nature by Tristan Gooley and Animal Speak by Ted Andrews. I have heard of Ted Andrews and his writings, and he is very highly recommended. There's Not for Us. Katie says, I have so many books I want to read, but just not the brain capacity. I know it's hard. I just recently, today's Tuesday, so yesterday, the last BookTube review video that I put out was really more of a vlog where I was telling all of you that I'm going on a break. So we're not going to have any more BookTube reviews until the beginning of January. I'm taking a 6-week break because I have a really huge stack of books to read for research, and they don't make sense for review, but I can't do that and keep reading all the other stuff too, because there's not enough time in the day, which was really hard for me because there's still so many books that I want to read. And it's like, I both need more, like 20 more hours in a day, and I need to be able to read faster, and I need my brain to be like twice the size so that I can just absorb it all. It is my biggest life, like, sorrow. It's so sad. All right. Okay, so Emran says, oh wow, books, more books. My list to read is getting longer. Crafting My Life says, do you write dates on your books when you buy it? Sounds interesting. So sometimes I used to, and I don't anymore, which is really kind of a bummer because, like, for instance, this one I got, this is what it says, Elena Rigo. I put my name, and then it says, again, 3/2016. And I say again because this is literally the third copy of this book that I've got. So I used to do that, and now we have our cool little, if you're part of the book subscription, we sent This Book Belongs To stickers so that you can put them in each of your books. Now I have those, and I do that with those, but I don't always remember. So what the date used to be is when I read it. But see, this one, I just got this, so I haven't read this. When did I read this? This was 2007. I mean, yeah. This one doesn't have one. And I know that this was probably a little earlier than 2007. No, in fact, I know this was earlier than 2007. This one was probably around 2000. So it's not a consistent practice. I really wish that I would have started from the very, very beginning of my reading history to write all that down, and I just haven't. So this is why I love Goodreads, because I think that I have been tracking what I read each year since 2019. But since 2019, like, I've been reading for like a million years. So I feel kind of sad that I hadn't kept that practice or started that practice like in college even. So I highly recommend that if you're super bookish, do it, because I don't have any set system of really tracking any of that other than using Goodreads. And even that is like on a platform. It's not my own. I'd love to, download that somehow and start tracking it more. When I read it, what I thought about it, all the things. Emran says, oh, it's one of those wonky internet days. Oh, I'm sorry. And then Crafting My Life says, okay, I say it's time for a new ASMR video series by Elena. Okay, I'm not going to do that. No. I have thought about it as a joke, but come on. I can't take myself seriously if I do that. That's just, I know that everyone loves it, but no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Colin says, even their names have power. Holy cow. It doesn't resonate with me, but I feel it. Yeah, they do. They're, my relationship with them at this point feels like they are the threads that weave the fabric of existence. There's a lot of powerful work that can be done there in that path for sure. Alexa says, so interesting and very helpful. Thank you. Kali at times resonates with me since she's come to me during this new season of life I'm entering, full of transformation. She is, I get tearful when I talk about her. And I'm not entirely sure why, other than I think that she, more than any other deity, has been, interestingly, even more than Durga, although Durga and Kali are kind of aspects, they're not aspects of each other. That's not the right languaging, but they are forms of one another. She to me is probably the closest experience of true fierce motherly love I've ever experienced. She is a lot more than what we say about her in general conversation on the internet, in terms of like, oh, she's the destroyer and she will destroy worlds and blah, blah. That's like, yeah, sure, that's it, but it's not. There's just so much more about her, and she is an entire universe unto herself. um yeah, yeah, no, I love her. I love her. And she's not, although who knows, I don't know. She's not that I really think so at this point, my Ishtadevata, or my patron deity. But the love is deep. The love is really deep. I have a gorgeous altar to her um up there. She's beautiful. Jennifer says, I rely on your reviews. If you don't recommend any, then my stack to read will be smaller. Just kidding. We'll miss you. Happy holidays. Yes. I mean, I'm still going to do the lives. I'm still here. And obviously, look, I can't help myself from talking about books, because this is not necessarily supposed to be a book Q&A, but we end up talking about books anyway, because it's just the whole world. Marcy said, built a new bookshelf and they will come. Yes. Yes, they will. I am actually, I know I've been promising like a book tour of all the things behind me. Um, but I'm not, because I try to rearrange them, and really the reality is that I don't have enough shelf space for the amount of books I have in this teeny, teeny office. There are books everywhere. And so I have been saving my pennies, because I'm going to do a whole new wall situation to kind of be able to make more use of the space. And hopefully I can't say that if I build it they will come, because they've already come and there's nowhere to put them. So I need to redo the whole thing. So hopefully in January I'll have enough saved up to redo the whole thing. Writing info. Okay. So writing info of when you get a book in the books. What a great idea. I love it, but I wasn't consistent. So be consistent, because you will be like me and regret it years later when you look at a book and it doesn't have anything in there. Hello, Carolyn. Welcome. I've heard of Kali, but haven't thought about studying about her. This is so interesting to learn more about. She's pretty intense. She's a beautiful, beautiful deity to work with. Carolyn Nooney, have you read The Christian Witch yet? I have not read The Christian Witch yet. Who's that by? Because I would be curious to read that book, actually. I know that we have a I feel really embarrassed right now that I don't remember her name. We have a social media follow friend who calls her, I think her name is The Christian Witch, or is it Christian Witchery? She's got a YouTube channel and she's got stuff going on Instagram as well. So there's an audience for this, absolutely, and there's a whole crew of Christian witches out there. I don't personally understand it, but I would be willing to read the book, because I think that it's great to know. Any recommendations on Lilith? Yes. Okay. I have 2 books in my nightstand at home. Hold on. Okay, I don't remember. Where is her book? I don't remember the exact name of the publishing house, but it's Lucy H. Pierce's publishing house. I think it's Womancraft Publishing, or maybe it's Woman Spirit Publishing. I don't remember, but they have. Am I wrong about this? It's either her publishing house that has a couple of books on Lilith, or it's the Girl God Publishing Company that has a couple of books on Lilith that are really, really good. I've got both of them, and they're on my nightstand, because I'm trying to get the information through osmosis, because I really want to dive in. And the other book, I read a book on Lilith a long time ago that I have somewhere in one of my shelves at home. Lilith the Dark Goddess. It's a small book. I don't want to do a search while I'm online, because I feel like I'm going to screw things up. But maybe next week, maybe next week I'll pull out all my Lilith stuff and we can talk about Lilith next week, because I don't remember the name. But it's either I don't know that it's Womancraft. It's either Lucy H. Pierce's publishing house has 2 books on Lilith, or it's the Girl God publishers. And the Girl God publishers have a lot of really great books. Like, I think that all of their books are literally on my to be read like list. Amber, no, I skipped something. Hold on. Any recommendations? Interested in that too. It'd be ironic. This is Colin. It'd be ironic if it was written as a pagan portals boom. Carolyn says Adelina St. Clair. What are we talking about? I feel like I've missed. Oh, that is the author. Thank you. Sorry. I'm a little chocolated out now. I'm a little okay. So the Christian Witch by Adelina. That's a beautiful name. Adelina St. Clair. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for that. Amber says, I believe in deity, but I can't seem to shake the feeling this is silly and stupid. How do I get past this feeling and doubt? Or is this just my personal stuff that I need to work through? I mean, look, first of all, everything is personal stuff that we need to work through. So let's start with that. Let's demystify that. It's not like something has gone wrong for you. We have to work through our stuff. If you feel like it's silly and stupid, but there is some part of you that's like wanting it, follow that and allow it to feel silly and stupid, and let that be part of your process. So as an example, again, one of the things that you can do a couple of things to make it easy for yourself. You can buy, and I'm sure that all of you here will have recommendations for her, but you can buy, there are a couple of different oracle decks that will have like maybe 30 or 40 different goddesses with like a little, or deities with a little blurb on them, where you can just have that deck, shuffle through, pull one, and before you pull it, say, open up the intention and say something to the effect of, I'm open to working with the deity that most wants to be met by me right now. Pull the card, look at the card, the deity, and rather than have it be this pressure of, I need to have a whole spiritual experience with this deity, don't go there. Just take that name and do a little research, do a little Googling, right? Like, where did this deity come from? How were they worshipped? What was the culture? Is there still people worshiping this deity now? What does that look like in modern times? Start there just to get a feel for it. The other part of that is that there are a couple of different ways to look at working with deities. You could look at it as this is an actual god, some entity, supernatural, above and beyond what humanity is, untouchable. You can look at it from that perspective, or you can look at it from the perspective of each deity is an energetic stream or an archetype. Some people feel like that's super disrespectful, but the reality is that the power is going to be the same. But if that's the better entry point for your brain and for the story that you're still trying to work with, use that doorway, right? There's no wrong way. So if you're opening up for information, do some Googling. It's very super not spiritual and not romantic, but learn about them, learn the stories, learn how this deity has shown up in history and how, and what it meant to those people and what it looks like now in modern times with modern witches, so that you can start to get a vibe and a feel. You're going to get education. You're going to get learning, spiritual learning, because there's going to be inevitably some languaging or talk about what spiritual ministration this particular deity brought to the people. And then you can, to kind of maybe circumnavigate through the whole, this is silly and stupid, and is there other gods? I don't know. You can look at it as we're working with an archetype, a very specific energy stream that holds very particular powers and very particular themes in terms of the way they move in the world or move with people. And then that can be your entry point, so that you're kind of like allowing for the silly, like this is stupid and silly, to be there while still absorbing the information, and then see how that shifts you, because it'll shift you in one way or another. And it may be that this isn't for you, right? And that's totally okay. But it may be that it begins to shift the way you feel or the way you think about it and the way it's affecting you. And then that can create a pathway for you to continue to follow and cobble for yourself. So there you go. Emran says, I keep saying that I need to visit to help with organization of books. I have been collecting ideas for years because I have way more books than others. I own 3 pairs of shoes, no purses, but but you have a million books. I love it. We all have our thing. Marcy, if you have to go, see you later. Take care. I'm so glad that you were here. Colum, and you as well. Robin, welcome. Robin says, ebooks, baby. Got thousands on my phone. I know, but I'm still, look, I have come a long way, let me tell you, because I was a massive snob about ebooks and I was a massive snob about audiobooks, but I've embraced the books because I love reading. And it's like, look, I only have so many hours in the day, and riding in a car can be a great time for an audiobook. So I have come and I've seen the light. However, this is what the true story is, that if I read a book as an ebook or an audiobook and I love it, I will inevitably have to buy the hard copy again, because especially that's 99.9% true of um nonfiction books. If it's fiction, it's not such a big deal. Like, I'm okay with it being on an ebook, or I'm okay with it being an audiobook and never getting the hard copy unless it's like a book that I've loved forever. Like when I first read, I know that she's not popular anymore and she's got super problematic issues, but when I first read Harry Potter, I have the books. I'm never going to get rid of those books. I bought every single one, even though they were fiction books, because they were just so beautiful, and so they touched so like what it touched with all of us, right? The sense of magic and beauty, and just the I think the developmental phases of those characters were just so like poignant for all of us, right? So if it's a fiction series or a book that just really touches me, I'll buy it. But for the most part, those can live on ebook and audio form. But when it's when it's one of these where you have to study it and it's information and you're going to go back and reference it, my note taking in here is super invaluable to me. So I don't even know why I'm talking about this. Okay, so let me move on. Alexis, thanks, Elena. Same time next week, right? Okay, so I'm gonna write myself a note. Lilith for next week. Okay. And Lilith is making her, her debut here, because we've been talking about Lilith for a couple weeks now. Okay, Emerence says, I lost count on how many I had. I've lost so many in the house fire. Oh, I'm so sorry. And in many moves. Books are my life. My Kindles keep dying and are always full. I love it. Michelle, thanks, Robin Keg. You reminded me of my question. I want to listen to audiobooks, but know nothing about it. Michelle, you mean, do you know nothing about how to listen to audiobooks? Tell us more. Miss Melissa says, do you have any favorite Etsy shops for witchy items? Oh gosh. No, not like favorite that I go back to over and over again. I feel like Etsy is a treasure trove of magic. Okay, first of all, right now the only favorite Etsy. Well, let me finish that thought. So I don't really buy things for the boxes from Etsy anymore, because we require way too many pieces and they generally can't meet our numbers. But I have gotten a lot of really beautiful stuff off of Etsy, but there's not really any store that I've gone back to over and over again, because it's usually for the one thing. The only favorite Etsy store that I have right now, I don't even remember the name, but I always go back to it, is a French shoe cobbler. They make the best, softest, most amazing leather shoes. And that is like, and they're expensive. They're so expensive. So it's like always hearted, and I have a tab somewhere in the 5,000 tabs that I have open that's just that store, so that when I have enough money, I'm like, I'm gonna buy another pair of shoes. They last forever. They're made to your measurements. The leather is just amazing, and they're so comfortable and cute and clunky and funky. And anyway, so that's the only favorite store that I have on Etsy. But the other ones, there's just so much going on Etsy that you can find. It's magic what they're creating out there. Jamie Curran says, I love the Goddess Power Oracle deck by Colette Baron Reed. Yes, that's a beautiful deck. I have that. It's been really beneficial, and it's a beautiful deck. That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Jamie. Robin says, yearly membership for Scribd. Is it Scribd or Scribd? I never know what that is. Is 120, and you can download as many ebooks, audiobooks, mags, podcasts as you want. And they have lots of these topics. So let's have a conversation about that, because I've really never understood what Scribd is. There have been times when I've gone on there and I can get whole books, what looks like for free. And I'm like, is this like a pirate site where they're just pirating books? But you're saying that there's a membership. So then my question is, because I would throw down for a year membership if it's as many as I want. What do I pay for Audible? What's the membership for Audible? Like $15 a month or $14.99 a month? $14.99 a month gives you 1 credit, which can be a deal for some books, but not a deal for others. So it's not necessarily like the best membership, although Audible does have a massive repository of free audiobook downloads, which I love. But if like Scribd has like the same type of variety of books or access to books, I would totally throw down 120 for the year and download a bunch of stuff. I'll check that out. So I guess the question is, Robin, do they have as many of these types of titles as we'd like? Because that's important. Endless Awareness says, I have an off topic question I hope you can address. I cannot fully connect to any type of witchcraft fully without getting turned off at some point with the dogma rules associated with it. So the question is, what's the question? Off topic question. I cannot fully connect any type of. So I don't have an answer. I have questions for you. What exactly is it that you feel you are most needing or wanting out of witchcraft and your spiritual path? And let's go for, I'm not going to say any more until maybe you can answer that if you feel comfortable, because then that will kind of dictate what I would say to you. Emerin says, Michelle, I'm on my 6th or 7th Kindle, had audiobooks on tape 30 years ago, Audible membership before Amazon bought them. How may I help? So, yeah. So, Michelle, there are a variety of ways to listen to audiobooks. You can have your audiobooks on a Kindle, the way Emerin said. I keep my audiobooks on my phone and on my computer. And I use my Kindle just for ebooks. There are a variety of places to download and buy audiobooks. So Audible is one of them. Audible is owned by Amazon. Apple Books has another repository of books that you can buy and download to your devices. I guess Scribd does as well. Who else? My voice is getting weird. I can't think of anybody else who does audiobooks. I know. Wait, no, there is. Hold on. Where's my phone? There are a couple that are cheaper, and I'm going to tell you right now because my mother-in-law, who's also an avid reader, Chirp is an app, and if you sign up for the app of Chirp, they send you emails where literally every week they have massive digital books and audiobook sales for like 99 cents, $1.99. So it's Chirp on your phone app. Both audio and digital, if I'm not mistaken. Is that true, or are they all? They may all be audio. So there's that. So that's one, and there's another one that my mother-in-law is so cool. Sorry, I know this is total dead air, but I'm trying to find the other app. You'd think that I'd have my apps organized, but I don't. That's the only one I have. I know that there's another one. Because I have Audible, I have Kindle, I have Libby. Libby is for renting digital and I think also audiobooks from your local library, but digitally on your phone. So Audible, Kindle, Libby, Chirp, iBooks, and then I think that that's it. I feel like there's another one, but I don't know what it is. But anyway, that's that. Okay. Meredith says, I think I found one Lilith book, Original Resistance, Reclaiming Lilith. Yes. Yes. Reclaiming Ourselves by Monette Chilson and Tristan Hendren. Is that published by The Girl God? I think it's The Girl God. They've got one, but then they also have a workbook that goes with that book. Crafting My Life says, I love all this speaking of deities today while Hekate, I can never say her name correctly, Hecate's night day. Right now, the candles on my altar are burning, my incense is swirling, and I'm here with you all, which is beautiful. I love it. Welcome. Yay. Amber, thank you for answering my question. That helps as a starting point. Good. Alexis, I do the same thing. If I love a book, I need the physical copy. Yeah. We have to have it. Really, I just need a bigger house for my books. It's really what needs to happen here. Robin says, enlarge the font, no readers, no lights, turn pages with a mouse while reclining. Oh, I love it. That's like some luxurious reading right there. It's amazing. Michelle says to Emirates, I have the original Nook and never used it. I have no knowledge about audiobooks. I would love to chat with you after this. Perfect. You guys can connect and talk about it. Wonderful. Oh, I skipped a lot of people. Hold on a second. Okay. Do you have any book recommendations on Hekate? Okay, so Meredith is asking Crafting My Life on books on Hekate. I'm gonna let Crafting My Life handle that one because I gave away a bunch of those books, and the only recommendation I have at this point would be Cindy Brannon's Keeping Her Keys and the subsequent I think Hecate's Garden, right? Is that the name of the book? Both of those books were amazing. Exactly what platform, what subscription? I'm disabled and I can't afford the one you mentioned above. Nook, a Kindle, my phone, iPad. So Michelle, you on your phone, I would download Chirp, CHIRP, and those are discounted audiobooks that you can get. They're not necessarily going to have as huge of a variety, right? Accessible. But they're great for all sorts of books, fiction and nonfiction. It's just they're not going to have as wide a variety of books available to you as like an Audible. Audible is through Amazon. It's a monthly subscription for I believe it's $14.99 every month, and you get a credit. And that credit is worth obviously the $14.99 that you paid for the month, and you can trade that credit in for a book. It's only a deal if the book that you want is actually more than $15, right? So you use that credit for, let's say, I mean, there are a lot of audiobooks that are like 25, 26. I just got one the other day for $35 with the credit. So it can become a great deal financially that way. But the other great thing about Audible is that in their like, I don't know, homepage or whatever that you would access through your phone, they have a ton of free books, and every month they come out with more free books to let you listen to. So in that sense, the $14.99 can make sense because if you are actually availing yourself of all those free resources, and then you're also using your credit, you can get quite a few books every month. I am not sponsored by Audible by any stretch of the imagination, but I do use it pretty extensively at this point. And it's the one that I know because obviously I have the Chirp, but I am so caught up with my other lists of books to read that I actually haven't used or listened or read any of the books that I have on Chirp. So there's that. And if you have an iPad, I'm going to maybe make an assumption that you probably have an Apple phone. The beauty of it is that I don't know if this is true of I don't know, what are they, Android devices, but when you have when you're in the Apple ecosystem, if you download an audiobook for your phone, it'll also download to your iPad, your computer, like it's on all your devices. I'm probably going to say that that's probably true for Androids too, but I'm not sure. Yes. I believe that once you leave Scribd sub, you lose access to everything. That's from K-Long. I don't know if that's true. Meredith says, oh, Libby. Yes, I use Libby and it's tied with my local library. So I support my local library, but I don't pay for subscription. Sometimes there are wait lists, but I don't mind waiting. Yes, that is true. Michelle says, more audiobooks than to read on a device. Want to listen to them. Yes. Jax says, I use Libby as well. Great for finding audiobooks since they tend to be more expensive. Oh, why do it keeps skipping? You can also borrow audiobooks from your public library, yes, which is a great cheap version. So Emran says Audible is $7.95 for a collection of stuff, podcasts, others, $14.95 for 1 credit, and I believe 24 something for 2 credits. You can prepay and get extra deals. You don't have to have a Kindle, right? You don't have to have a Kindle. You can download your audiobooks to your phone, to your iPad, and to your computer as well. Crafting My Life says Meredith, tons of them. So these are the recommendations for Hekate. Sarita D'Este wrote amazing books, and so did Cindy Brannon. Lately, Courtney Weber wrote a really good book on Hekate. Beautiful. Emerin says I've had practically all of the book apps over the years, and I've forgotten about half of them. I know because there's quite a lot. Robin, I don't know what you're asking when you say, is it gloss? Endless Awareness says, I ran out of space. Question. Oh, um, I am fine being an eclectic witch, but it makes it difficult to form a formal practice that I am comfortable with and can maintain. P.S. I really enjoy listening to you. Oh, thank you. I am fine being an eclectic witch, but it makes it difficult to form a formal practice that I'm comfortable with and can maintain. Okay, so then more questions, because I'm all about the questions today. What is for you the end game or the end result that you're looking for out of a practice? Like, why do you want to practice? What is the practice going to serve you for? And then we go from there. Because I can say a lot about creating a practice for yourself. Alexa says ebook, audiobook apps I love to use are I'm gonna write this down. Hold on a second. Or should I just take a picture? Let's take a picture so that you don't see me writing. Got all kinds of devices going on right now. Okay, where's Alexis? Boom. Alexa says Hoopla and Libby and Overdrive, both free. You should be able to contact your local library to get access. I also have Audible and a Kindle. We are such bookish people. I love it. Emran says, and yes, you can get a free Amazon account if you don't already have one and link your library card to the Kindle app. It's insane. There's just never enough hours to read everything. I know. I really, like, I think I told you all at some point somewhere that I had a fantasy a long time ago that I just wanted to read every single book ever written on the planet. That's actually kind of impossible, which is really sad to me. But wouldn't that be great that was your job? Like, and I've also mentioned that I never really felt that I was going to be a person to retire, because my work is creative work and I feel like I'm going to be creating for the rest of my life. And also, who can afford to retire? Who knows? But lately it's more and more like, yes, I just want to retire so that I can just spend my days drinking hot beverages and reading. That's all I want to do with my retirement time. I still have maybe 15 years to go. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll see. Okay, so more on Endless. I am also confused as to what I am as a witch and who I want to be. So there's a lot. And one of the things that I would say to you is that if a spiritual practice is not something that's static, it's always evolving. And oftentimes it will hit you at those very exact places that you've just mentioned, which is, who are you? Who do you want to be? That's at the core of a lot of our spiritual angst and questioning and path finding, right? So you're kind of on the right track there. Who do you want to be? What does this mean to you? Who are you as a witch? And I would say to you that that's an answer that you're going to be formulating for yourself for the rest of your life. The beauty of, you can call it an eclectic witchcraft path, but I think that that's probably true of all witch paths. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Most witch paths is that you're never going to always be locked into something or one way of doing things, right? By its nature, because so much of witchcraft, regardless of tradition, is so centered around connection and the quality of connection that you're able to have with yourself, with the world around you, with energy, with magic, right? With deities, with whatever the tradition dictates. That will always continue to evolve you and shift you over time. So the answer of who are you as a witch, there's some comfort in knowing and having a word or words for that answer. But if you don't have it, know that nothing's gone wrong, because we're always evolving and that will change over time. So it could be very well that right now you are a seeking witch, you are a learning witch, you are still exploring. In terms of dogma, sometimes dogma will serve a certain personality type for the better, right? There are some of us who need and really thrive in very specific ways of, we do it this way, we do it this way, we do it this way, and when it's this thing, then we do it this way, right? There are very clear delineated ways of practicing and why you practice. There's liturgy. There is, like, when we go into circle, everyone says the same thing, and for some of us that's like, ew, how boring. And for some of us that's incredibly freeing, because you can then be within that structure and then allow yourself to go deeper within the boundaries because there's a container for you, right? So both can serve in really profound and amazing ways. It's definitely a personality type and a spiritual need. So already you know, right, about what kind of witch you are and that you don't really want to or do well with perhaps or are called to that level of structure. You're much more freeform. You're much more maybe intuitive in the way that you pursue things and what you maybe you listen to what's calling you now as opposed to yesterday and you follow that. There is a lot more freeform to that, and that speaks to the kind of witch that you are. It's not a name, it's not a pretty package, but it gives you an idea of who you are as a witch. This is how you work better, perhaps, or this is where you're drawn most to. And because we are witches, hold on. Sorry, I have a thing in my mouth. Because we're witches, and because it's about connection, that's where you find your connection points the most, right? Now, the drawback to being in that camp, it's not really a camp, but I don't know what else to call it, is that when we do want, like, I would like some structure around how do I practice? What do I practice? What am I practicing for? We're left to create that for ourselves. So there is some challenge there, right? You have to step up a little bit to create the structure for yourself, which can be challenging. Sometimes it's super nice to just turn to the thing and here's like 5 rituals that you always have to do and then you know. So that can be the challenge, but I would say that you already have some clues about the kind of witch that you are, but trying to figure out for yourself the kind of witch that you want to be, the kind of person that you want to be, that's like a lifetime pursuit, which is beautiful because that's what we're all doing. So let me, because I feel like I'm also confused. Let me go down to see if you've added anything more and then go back up to say practice. Not everyone feels this way, so this is completely an Elena opinion, and it's also what I push through the witches box. So know that it's not that I do have an agenda, but it's not about this. This is very much part of my own personal cosmology, and so I push it here. But know that not all witches think this, not all witches feel that this is necessary. I think practice is at the core of any spiritual endeavor, whether you're a witch or not. Trying to figure out what kind of practice makes sense for you or what you should be practicing can be a little challenging, but I think it's important to then start asking yourself the question of what would be the goal? Is the goal to hone my skill in creating magic? Is my goal to create more stillness and clarity mentally and spiritually for myself internally? Is my goal to really be able to develop an intimate relationship with a deity or with the ancestors or with the spirit of place? Like, there are goals for practice in that way. There's also the goal of like something very Buddhist, which is just to attain a level of stillness and silence within you. There are all sorts of things, right, that you can accomplish through practice. I think that practice is critical in the life of any spiritual being for a number of reasons. One of them is that any spiritual endeavor, any spiritual path, whether it's a witchcraft path or a Buddhist path, or even I would say Christian, Catholic, whatever, there is a certain amount of introspection and contemplation that's necessary in order to dim down the noise of the external life and be able to tap into either your internal wisdom or the wisdom from on high, whatever that looks like. Do you know what I mean? So practice can provide that for you. Practice can create a seat of stillness and silence so that your intuition and that inner voice becomes louder and easier to hear. Sorry, hold on. But then there are also practices that center around being a better sorcerer or a magician or a witch in terms of creating magic. But there's also mundane practice, right? So if you are a healer witch, maybe the practice looks like very specifically reading about plants, reading about the healing properties of plants, and then having the practice of touching them, interacting with them, and talking with them. So a practice can be many, many, many things. But at its core, at its skeletal core, the act of showing up to do a thing every single day, because yes, I advocate for every single day. You don't have to do elaborate rituals every day, But even if every day you just light a candle and offer up gratitude, even if every day you light a candle and meditate in silence so that you can return to your breath and return to stillness, these things cultivate your personal power and your personal well-being. It's imperative that you have at least that. So it can be that simple. It can be that simple. 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the morning, I go into silent meditation and then I'm done. And every time there's a full moon, I do a very specific ritual that I created for myself. It can be a celebratory ritual, it can be a gratitude ritual. Every new moon, I set a goal, and that's my practice. But the act of showing up with discipline and with consistency and with habit to do the thing creates an energy force around that intention that only amplifies you and the thing that you're trying to create and manifest. I think that I've gone way off the beaten path with all this, but let me know if that's even remotely helpful for you, and then we can go on from there, because I feel like I could talk about practice for a long time. Okay, let me go back. So Michelle Cole says, thank you so much. I do have Amazon Prime. It is 50% off as I have public assistance. Oh my God, that's amazing. Good, good, good. Alexa says Audible also has regular deals where you can get 2 or 3 books for 1 credit. Yes, that's true. Audible really does have a lot of great deals, I have to say, which is nice and helpful. I know that a lot of people are like anti-Amazon, but it is really one of the most robust audiobook resources out there. And Apple, I think that Apple Books is I don't know, I could be wrong. I think that Apple Books is only available to Apple users. Is that true? That might not be true, but they also have a pretty robust library. But I don't know what their I don't know that they have a subscription. I think you buy books as per book, which could be more expensive. Robin says, I love the freedom and flexibility of being an eclectic witch. I'm free to follow my intuition and what speaks to me. Yeah, absolutely. That totally speaks to a lot of us. My first training was in Wicca, Dianic Witchcraft. It's a Wiccan subgroup. And in the beginning for me, it was wonderful because it was all so new, and it allowed me the space to learn about ritual structure and ritualing and spell casting and all of these other different parts about being a witch, while being able to then just step into this form of ritual that we did for each holiday and the way we were looking at certain things. So it served me really well. And then there was a time when it was like, I'm ready for something different. I'm ready for more. So, and I hold two, yeah, I do. I hold 2 lineages. I hold 2 paths where my witchcraft is very intuitively in the bones resourced, right? Very intuitive. And then I also then hold in another lineage, the Scribd lineage, where everything is very specific. The way you approach a deity is very specific. The way you practice, it's called sadhana practice, but the way you would do a practice with Kali or with Chinnamasta, very different, very specific, very regulated. So I hold both, and both serve me in very different ways, but they're both incredibly enriching. So yeah, there's no one better than the other. It just depends on what feeds you the most and what speaks to you the most. And it could change throughout the course of your life, right? We have been talking for a long time, you guys. Okay. Alexa said, I can see it now. The first ever The Witch's Box retreat with only a few hours of group witchery and loads of reading time. Listen, someone posted is it a meme if it's just a bunch of words? One of those little squares with someone who wrote, is it too much to ask to just go on vacation with all of my friends and all of my books, where we just hang out all day at a house reading, and then we go out to dinner each night and just talk about our books? And I reposted that on my personal Facebook page. And a few friends were like, oh my God, yes, that would be the best thing ever. I could see a world where we have a retreat where all we do is just lay around all day reading. Maybe we get really bougie and have someone just cook for us, so that food is just brought to us wherever we may be laying around reading, and we eat all day, but then we save some of the appetite for dinner, where we get together around a big table and just talk about what we read. That may have to happen. I don't know how on brand. I mean, look, we can make it on brand. Let's just do it. I think that would be so amazing. It would be awesome. I would never want to leave. Michelle says, reading every book, your bucket list. Yeah, it's totally my bucket list. It's not a realistic bucket list, but I'm trying. Uh, and Column says, I'd come to that. Starro, welcome. Starro says, spiritual angst. I love that term, right? Because spiritual angst is actually a very spiritual term, right? Like we go through these existential crises where it's like, what am I doing? Where do I belong in this story, right? We all have to go through that at varying times in our lives. Um, okay, I have to say this out loud. I need to get off of this in 8 minutes because I just recognized and realized and remembered that I told someone that in an hour and a half I would connect with them, and we're just I'm chatty today. Endless Awareness says, I want magic in my life, greater understanding and connection to the universe, planet connections. I have many health issues I want to improve and many obstacles I would like to remove. Thank you for your time and thoughtful answers. You're welcome. And there you go. So you know a couple of things about who you are as a witch because you know what you're wanting, you know what doesn't work for you right now. So you're coming from a pretty you've got a foundation to work from, which is great. There is a book that's coming to mind. I don't even know that it's a book that it just came to mind because the book itself does not give you a lot of spiritual talk. It just gives you exercises and practices to do to explore certain things. And oh my God. All right, I'm going to ask one of you who are subscribed to the Witch's Book Box. It was the Chaos Magic books that I sent out. There was the Chaos Protocols. I'm not talking about that book. I'm talking about the other one. Does anyone remember the name of that book? I cannot believe I cannot remember. I gotta take some pills. I gotta take something to help me get super sharp and like photographic with my memory. Um, the Chaos Protocols wasn't it. It was the other one. If anyone remembers, can you please post it? If not, come back next week, Endless Awareness, and I will bring that book out because that book is about chaos magic. But in that book, it's such an amazing resource if you love practice and you want to experiment because there are, I mean, countless. It was a fairly chunky book that had very specific practices for different things like augmenting your psychic powers or increasing your capacity for manifestation or your capacity for sigil work or all these different things. But it would tell you this is the practice, this is what it's about, and this is what it's for, and this is how to do it. And one of the tenets of chaos magic that I don't subscribe to, but it's there, is that you cycle through different practices at a quick clip. Because if I do a practice today and it didn't really give me any results, I move on to the next one. You keep moving on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one until you hit on one that really works for you. I'm kind of the other end of that stream. I'm like, take the one and spend an entire year in a practice and go deep. So that may be because I'm neurotic, or it may be that I come from other schools of thought, right? But both can work. What I loved about this book is that the exercises were really powerful, were really, I think, would really facilitate any witch's ability to be their own scientist, to do a practice, and then really to go into like, how did I feel? What came up? Did it work? Did I need to tweak this? Could I tweak that? It gives you a little bit more of a detached view of a practice, but they were substantive practices that can still give you something. Anyway, all that to say is that that's the book that came up for you. My voice is going. But I don't remember the name. So if anyone remembers it, put it down here. And if you don't remember it, I will remember to bring it up next week. Okay, I gotta go quick. Okay. Emerin says, Alexis, yes, I didn't get to that. Audible has lots of deals. Buy one, get one. You can get extra credits for discount. Yes. Column says, just cast spells of protection and got. Oh, God, why does this keep jumping? Where's Column? Column says, okay, just cast spells of protection and guidance, set a real strong atmosphere, and get the kettle on and just read. Sounds like bliss. Right. I want that. Alexa says, don't worry so much about labels. Notice what calls you, what you enjoy, and let that form your path, connection, knowledge, and authenticity. Beautiful. Emerin says, Robin, yes, being eclectic, I can adjust as I feel. I can get deep into a specific or just a piece of this or part of that. I love the flexibility and I'm learning to have my own practice and habits. Beautiful. Column says exactly. Plucking on the threads of reality and drawing in a resonance that matches and spreads like ripples in a pond. Yes, beautiful. Forming grand canyons of power really calls to me. That's beautifully written and said. Thank you. Stario says, no, this is good. Don't worry. Oh my gosh, I don't remember what you're talking about because I went on such a long tangent. I'm sorry. Imran says, what you practice provides a routine that's also called ritual, just like kids need to have something to count on, like milk and cookies after a nap. Yes. Thank you. Alexa says, weave magic into the mundane. Simply applying intention to everyday activities can help make your practice more sustainable. Yes. Emran says, and starting here, developing the habit, if just joining the Witches Box here weekly. Thank you for that. You can create it to. Oh, why does it keep jumping? Emerance, you create it to be a part of your schedule and build from that. Michelle says somewhere warm and tropical. Are you having a lot of cold, Michelle? I'm in. Alexa says yes. I have mentally and spiritually already purchased my ticket to the retreat. I love it. Colin says the same. I'll bring the spices for the good curry. Curry. See this though. Was it Michelle who said yes? Michelle said warm and tropical. But look, if it's cold weather, we can have soups and tea and hot chocolate and a fire. Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna start looking through Airbnb to see where we can rent a big house. Yes, I have mentally. Okay, I'm reading. Oh, Rachel says I'm reading Existential Kink per your recommendation. It's giving me a crisis in the best way. It's right, right. Yeah. She did a good job of creating those like little crisis ripples. It's not a book for everyone, but when you get past the um it's pretty fucking cool. I gotta say, it's good work. And yeah, I cuss. Sorry, I should have warned people before, but I'm a cursy girl. I don't curse a lot. Well, no, I go through phases. But yes, that's a great book, and I'm glad that it's giving you a crisis in the best way. It's great. Emran says, I've been saying that we should do it here in Vegas. I'm happy to cook. Oh my goodness, I would cook, rent a huge mansion, and just witchy veg out in books. Yes. All our suitcases would be like 1,000 pounds because we just bring a bunch of books. We need 7 days, is what we need. Oh my God. Let's do this, please. Okay, I'm gonna consider it very strongly because we need to start gathering. Ali says, I went on a retreat in Ireland with my coven, and we definitely had a chef for supper every night. It was fabulous and so magical. Yeah, we need to be cooked for. That is an important thing. Okay, I'm coming to the end. Michelle says, Emerald Springer, yes, Vegas, I'm in. Cheap to fly to. Emerald says, before my time as at the TW book subscription. Wait, before my time. Oh, I'm sorry. It was before your time with the subscription, but I'm interested in knowing more about the Chaos Witchery Tingling Toes. Good. I'll bring those 2 books to our gathering next Tuesday. Ellie, would you okay, so Michelle's talking to Ellie. I'm not gonna read that. Kim says, I'm coming in at the tail end. Hi Kim. But I understand the forgetfulness and having books all over the place and that I haven't finished listening to the replay. Okay, cool. Michelle Cole, snow today. Ick. Michelle, I live in Montana. Oh, it's cold out there. Elspeth says, can it be in a forest near a sea? Oh, a forest near a sea. Well, we've got Big Sur. We've got I'd love to go to Maine. Maine's got forest right on the sea. I think Oregon's got forests right on the sea, so does Washington State. I'm down for that kind of vibe for sure. With horses. Okay, now you're pushing it, girl. Maybe with horses. Erin says Vegas is great in winter too. I love your hair and makeup. Oh, thank you, E. Okay, so this is it. It's 2:31 and my light is telling me it's time. Let me turn it off. Thank you guys for hanging out. This was fun. This was a lot longer than, well, kind of, yeah, it's one of our longer ones, but thank you. I will be back next Tuesday for another Oracle reading and more chat and more books. And this Friday, actually, I haven't posted the theme for our guided meditation, but we're having another guided meditation this next Friday. That's at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I think that that's it. All right, my loves, have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. Stay warm or cool, depending on where you are. Do more reading, and then we'll talk about it next week. All right. And wolves and crows. Yes. Let's have a forest with wolves and crows and horses and a beach and trees and snow and a fireplace and a cook and a lot of couches and big comfy chairs and millions of books. It'll be a contest. Who can bring as many books as they can to the retreat? Oh my God, that'd be amazing. All right, my loves. Mwah. I love you all. Take care, and we will hang out again next week. All right. Bye. Oh my goodness. Okay.